Good afternoon, everybody. Just gonna wait another about 50 seconds, and then we're gonna start. Grab your popcorn, your assorted beverages, any pets you might want to have on your lap, and we'll get started. Alright, everyone, welcome. Hope you had a nice little 10 minutes there listening to the music. Great little extended theme of the Hamlet music. So these 10 streams that are going to be happening every Friday and Monday, starting today, of course, are going to be going over the basics of modding. We're going to be getting a whole bunch of things up. Let me get that scheduling over here, actually. Where is it? Here it is. So today's stream is going to be very, very basic. We're not actually going to be getting into modding at all, but we are going to be going over the software that I personally use and that I recommend using. I'm going to be going over what is called a Subversion client, which is a very, very good way for mod developers and game developers to keep track of file changes and basically the entire versions that they use for modding, and getting into documentation and why it's an important thing to do with modding and with game development or software development of any kind. And then we're gonna have some time for questions afterwards. I don't think today's gonna take very long, maybe hour and a half at max. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Maester Silvio, or you can call me Joe or Joey. I am the creator of Pitch Black Dungeon, Lighter Dungeon, Twisted Dungeon, Lighter Dungeon being the first Darkest Dungeon mod to ever be made. And I've got quite a bit of experience. However, I do not have any experience with art, animation, so we're not actually going to be getting into that side of things. This is going to be more focused on the creation of things that like designers could create. So let's go over the stream overview. Today, obviously, we've already started with the introduction. Stream 2 is going to be editing strings, creating trinkets, creating quirks. These are very easy things to do. As a modder, you don't have to get into files very much. Of course, when we're creating trinkets and quirks, we're actually going to be getting into creation of like buffs, stuff. So that's just going to be very easy stuff tomorrow, but should be very fun. Stream 3 is going to be getting into inventory management, so things like stack limits. And even later in that stream, we're going to be creating a potion, and we're going to have to be creating stack limits for that, and purchase or sell limits. We're going to be working on loot files as well, creating loot tables for enemies or curios. They all use tables. Stream 4 is going to be a little bit more fun. We're going to be getting into creating affixes. Also, hello everybody who's joining. We're going to be creating our first affix on stream 4, which is going to be the affix royal. If you don't know what affixes are, they are part of PvD. They're a way to create more diversity in enemy compositions and encounters within dungeons. They're basically modifiers on top of an enemy type that can grant a whole different range of things, so new buffs, new loot tables, new abilities, new AI, a whole bunch of crazy things. And then we're going to be actually putting that affix into an encounter and testing it. And then we're going to be jumping out of affixes and encounters to work on camping skills, which is definitely a very different but important part of the game. Stream 5, we're going to be creating another affix, inspirational, and then adding some lore. That should be calling back to Stream 2 with string editing, since lore is, of course, strings. Then we are going to be adding a town event. Of course, you know, town events are the things that happen in town after most weeks. And then we're going to be creating a new enemy. Silence asks, are you in the UK now, or did you turn down the job offer? I'm not in the UK, I'm still in the US. I have not gotten any job offers at the moment. I don't know what you're talking about. Stream 6, we're going to be creating yet another affix, Charming. This one's going to be more complex than the royal or inspirational enemies, since Charming requires completely new AI, a new ability, a whole bunch of crazy things with Charming, but it's a very cool affix. One that people absolutely hate because of its difficulty sometimes. We're going to be working on curios. Curios, of course, are going to be a very different file setup compared to the rest of the game's files. They're pretty limited, but if you know how to work them, they can do some pretty cool things. And then we're going to be creating summonable enemies, and what I mean by that is like how you would use a torch on the Shambler altar in the base game and summon a Shambler. We're going to be creating some skeletons actually that we're going to be summoning from probably a sarcophagus or something. That'd be fun. Stream 7, we're going to be creating yet another affix called Martyrdom. That's going to be our last affix for this stream setup. And that requires a lot of new stuff, new AI, new abilities, all that stuff. But it's a little bit more complex than Charming. And then we're going to be working on creating basically how quests are generated, the rewards that they give, whether or not they are guaranteed by a town event or just spawn normally. And then finally, we're going to be creating a boss. We're going to take a bit of a break after that with Stream 8. And we're just going to take some questions and some viewer suggestions for things we can make. I know that it's going to be a lot of information overload and kind of this broad overview of Darkest Dungeon's moddable systems. So I want to kind of give a break so that you guys can ask if, hey, can you go back and show how you made that potion again? Or I didn't quite understand something, you know, just that one is going to be kind of very broad and but should be definitely fun. In Stream 9 and 10, we're going to be creating an entirely new map, and this is going to be pretty cool. I don't have a set, you know, time for how much this is going to take. We need to make like an 11th stream or something. We might have to, because we're going to be taking everything that we've learned from all the previous streams, and we're going to be creating an entirely new map with these new affixes. Hey Shady, welcome. With new lore, new encounters. We're going to be making it spawn off of a town event. I mean, everything that we've learned is going to be put into this new map. And then finally, we're actually going to upload the mod and, you know, do some test runs of it. It's a very, very, there's a lot of information there. But however, if you use the, you know, I don't think I actually put a command in for the stream overview. However, Nightbot will post the Imgur link for it, and if you want, you can go into our Discord, which I know Nightbot did link, and you can see all these days individually. Make it 1 day stream? I cannot do that. That is way too much. I'm very introverted. I don't think I could have more stream endurance than 3 to 4 hours max. Which is why these are all kind of broken up into indefinable time lengths. So we're just going to be going until 1 day's stream is done. If it's a little bit shorter than another one, you know, if this one's maybe only an hour, hour and a half long, it's very possible. If another one is 2 to 3 hours long, that's just the way it'll be. Don't worry. If you have missed any of this or you need to go somewhere, or if you're at work, these will all be uploaded immediately on YouTube afterwards. I am recording these as well, streaming. So right after it's done, I'm just going to start throwing it up on YouTube. And my YouTube channel can be found also in Discord. I should have gotten a link for that too. I thought I had everything ready, but of course, you think you have everything ready for a stream, you don't. All right. So I went over the goals of the stream. You know, the stream is the whole goal of it is to create an entirely new map. Show you every kind of the broad overview of the major things that can be modded, how to do it, and then how it can be all put into this one map. And then we're going to be uploading it, and you can even download it yourself after that and see the work that we've done in game, or even follow along if you'd like. I can absolutely make all the files that I use available, so it should be really awesome. So let's get started. We're gonna get started with software that I use. Of course, if you're on a different operating system, or you are, you have your own preferences, they may not be applicable here. However, I do know that most of what I use should be available on every single system. Of course, if you have any questions, you can @ me in the thing. It'll help show up a bit better on the chat clients if I'm like really focused on what I'm doing here. I do have the Red Hook Studios is very nice for hosting me. Thank you. I believe Chris was the one who did that. Thank you, Chris, if you're watching. And if you are in that channel and you have questions, I do have that open as well, but they won't show up in the upper right up here. That's only for my chat. Right, so first thing up is Notepad++, which is a text editor. Let's open up that website here with my handy little batch file. Notepad++ is really awesome. It's open source. It's available, I believe, on most platforms. It's very, very low CPU, low RAM. It's just a great text editor. It has language formatting, which of course, if you know even a little bit about modding Darkest Dungeon is mostly formatted in JavaScript. So we can even open up one of our files here. I was doing a bit of messing around. Here's the effects files. We have it all formatted perfectly in JavaScript, and we have all of the coloring. If you would like the dark theme that I use, not only for Notepad, but for like Windows and stuff, I can get you that. I do know that I'm about to use links in chat that should open up the Google Doc for all of the links that I'm going to be using here. Notepad++ is a big one. Notepad++ will be there, along with the dark theme. And I highly recommend downloading that if you're going to be following along or doing modding of your own. Next up is Tortoise SVN. Tortoise SVN is a subversion client. To make this a bit easier to understand, Tortoise SVN allows you to be able to very easily collaborate with others to save versions of your mod or your software or whatever you're trying to keep track of. It allows you to kind of compare differences between new versions and old versions, and it's a very safe way so that if you make a mistake or you cause a huge bug, it will, you can revert back to a previous version or even compare it to that previous version and see where you might have made a mistake. And I absolutely recommend it because even if you miss one slight comma in some massive file like the trinkets file and you upload that, it could cause all of your users to lose every single trinket that they won't get back. So you really need to be able to make sure that your updates are clean, they're bug-free, to the best of your ability. Of course, sometimes you create bugs that you just can't test for, but you need to be very careful, and Tortoise SVN allows that. So we're going to jump into Tortoise SVN's website. And I recommend downloading and installing along while I'm talking, of course. I want to give you guys time to do that. If you just head to the downloads page for Tortoise SVN, you can download whichever version for the operating system you're using. Even have language packs if you're using a different language than English. Hey Thomas, hey guys, Notepad++ is great. It is, it's very, very awesome. There are different versions or different alternative software like Sublime. I know some people use, but just don't use Notepad. You know, the default text editor for Windows. Definitely don't do that. Not a good idea. It's gonna be very difficult. Might cause problems as well. So I'm going to give you guys a little time to download Tortoise SVN while I'm talking and install it. None of the software that I'm displaying today should require a restart. Of course, I do recommend a restart, but you'd have to turn off the stream. But they shouldn't require it. So just don't worry about that. And I'm going to show you what to do once you have Tortoise SVN downloaded. So Tortoise SVN, well, I should say repository, is basically what it sounds like. It's where you keep things. It's where you keep all of your files, a repository. However, in Tortoise SVN, a repository is kind of like every time you check out a version, it's not actually the entire version. And which coding language do we primarily use? JavaScript and XML are the two big ones. XML is only used for strings. JavaScript is pretty much for everything else. Sometimes you may just not even need one because it's, you know, a very small file. It's not going to matter. But it's usually JavaScript and XML, both of which can be chosen up in the language section up here, which we'll get to. XML is right here, and then JavaScript is under J. So for Tortoise SVN, you basically have a bank, which is like you aren't going to touch anything in there. That's where you put the main version you want, which is called like the trunk. The trunk is never going to be touched. You don't go in there. What you do is you check out these versions and you modify those, and then when you're happy with what's in those, you then upload it to the repository, or the bank in this case. So the first thing you want to do is create a new folder somewhere, and we're just going to call that, you can call it anything you want, it does not matter. We're just going to call it mod repo. It stands for mod repository. And immediately upon install of Tortoise SVN, you should notice that when you right click, you're going to be greeted with Tortoise SVN's shell overlay and shell integration, I should say. And we want to create a repository here, because if we don't have a repository, there's nothing to check out. There's nothing to work out of. So we're going to create a repository, and it's going to put a whole bunch of things in there, and we don't want to touch any of it. We just want to copy this URL that it gives us and press OK. And technically, we now have a mod repository. And now we want to create another folder, and we can call this anything, but we're going to call this just mod. Actually, we're going to call it like r_mod. Again, you can call both of these anything you want. We're going to go in here, right click, go to Tortoise, go to SVN checkout, and it should, if you've already copied, it should paste whatever is in your clipboard already in there. And again, you don't need to touch anything. Basically, the checkout depth means that we're going to be checking everything out and whatever the head revision is at, but we don't actually have a revision. Revisions are basically versions. We don't have any of those yet, so we're just going to press OK, continue going. And here we go. We have checked out. We are at revision 0. Of course, we don't have anything in there. And you can see the overlays for Tortoise SVN showing that our mod is all good to go. It's at the latest revision. There are no changes that need to be committed or looked at. And you can even see the hidden folder SVN here, which is housing kind of the temporary files and anything else that it needs. You might not see this, and that is just because you don't have hidden folders set to shown. Just fine, you don't need that to set to shown at all. So the first thing we're going to do for any new mod, if we're going to be uploading to Steam or actually anywhere, because as you know, if you've used mods in game, they have a little image. And that's actually because they have this preview icon .png in there. And I've just made one with test mod on it because that's all this is. We're just test mod. We're gonna put that in there. And the moment we put it in there, Tortoise SVN is gonna be like, oh no, you know, something's changed. This is not the latest version. Something is awry. It's not that it's bad, just that that is not the full revision yet. And if you don't see this coming up, which is understandable, what you want to do is go to Tortoise SVN, into the settings, and under overlay handlers, sorry, icon overlays, you're going to want to check this box for unversioned files marked parent folder as modified. This is a very safe thing to do because, especially if you add new files and you don't have this checked, it won't say that there's anything different about the folder. Yet you still want to know that something is different in there. So we check this box, press apply, press OK, and then you should be able to see the modified overlay there. But now we have this in here. I mean, how do we commit it? How do we make this so that it's at revision 1? Well, that's pretty easy. First thing I want to do is come up to our folder here, right click again, press svn commit. And that's like, as you can see with the arrow, it's like storing it. You're now telling Tortoise SVN and your repository up in mod repo up here that you want to put all the changes you've made into the repository. And the moment you click this, a pretty crazy dialog is going to come up with a bunch of weird things on it. We're going to go over that pretty easily here. First thing up is the message. Now this, you can type anything you want. This is a way for you to track the changes that you make in an update. And because this is our first commit, it's usually a good thing to do is just to say first commit. And notice how this is unchecked. Any new files will automatically be unchecked, and you will have to check them. Of course, you can also click up here, all, none, or just non-versioned. Of course, this is non-versioned because it's a new file. And as long as that's checked and you put a message in, simply press OK. And we have now committed this file to the repository, and we are at revision number 1. And this is incredibly useful because this allows you to, if you make changes, so let's say I grab, let's go in and grab the default preview icon, which of course if we open this up, it's just the regular blue hammer. We copy this in, of course it's going to be a different PNG than the one that's in there, right? So let's replace it. Well, instantly it tells us something's missing or something's different. That's okay, we want that to be different. But we can now come in here and we can commit this new one. And we'll say changed preview icon to default. And we'll press OK. And we are now at revision 2 because we've committed 2 different revisions. And everything's all good. Well, let's say we want it back and we don't have our copy, this folder was gone, we accidentally deleted it or we overwrote it. That's okay, because we now have a copy of this old PNG in our repository. We have every single revision and change stored. And we can come in here and we can go Tortoise SVN, update to revision. And if we show the log, we can see that in the first one, we added this image. So let's go back to revision 1. And now we have our PNG back. This is very, very useful, Gamer Chris. It's very awesome. Now, one thing you want to be careful about when reverting to a revision is that it won't show that it's different. Right now, this PNG is at revision 1, but we're actually at revision 2. I didn't teach myself all of this. Red Hook actually uses an SVN, as do, I would say, most other developers. Even at GDC earlier this year, I know Telltale Games, the makers of like The Walking Dead visual novels, Wolf Among Us, etc., they use revisions. I would say most game developers use an SVN of some form. But since this is still at revision 1, we need to commit it. We need to say that this is now, we want this as our main revision. I believe we have to come in here. I was going to say that we're at different, but we can come in here and we can copy this and we put it back here. And then if we update, it's going to update to this old one, but we can come in here and we can replace it. Then commit it yet again. Reverted. Review icon. And we're back. What I recommend doing is, of course, using a different type of software to compare the changes that you make. So instead of going in here and reverting the icon, which is a pretty poor way to do it, I would actually create a new temporary folder, and we'll call this temp. Let me bring this down here. Temp revision. And we're going to come here and we're actually going to check out our repo. Instead of the head revision, though, we're going to check out revision number 2. And as you can see here, we now actually have revision 2. This is at revision 3 with our test mod icon, and this is at revision 2 with the default icon. Now hold on, we're going to put a pause in all this, and we're going to get a program, which is free of course, called WinMerge. Now WinMerge is really awesome. It's a open source way to difference files, and it has integration with Tortoise SVN, which is awesome. So the moment that you download and install this, it should automatically bring up a dialog asking if you want to integrate it with Tortoise SVN. It will automatically be checked, so just press OK, install with the default settings. And I'm going to give you 10 to 30 seconds to do that. And while I took a drink. Of course, remember, if you want the links to all these things that I'm using, just type !links in chat, and it will bring up a Google Doc with the links to the software that I'm using. Now, by default, PNG files are not actually binary data. They're not really anything. They're this weird format that if you were to open something like this in Notepad, it's going to be like, what? So you don't want to compare and contrast the differences in a PNG file. It's not a good way to do it. That's why we have the SVN. If we want to compare the differences. Of course, if I were to go into our mod here and open up the log, and I wanted to see the differences, I could simply click on the ones that were added, and it will show the differences. So here's revision 1, here's revision 2, here's revision 2, and here's revision 3. And that uses Tortoise SVN's default differencing. However, for regular data files, for something like the effects or something, I prefer to use WinMerge. And we are actually going to, we're going to get rid of this because we don't need this anymore. We're going to come into Pitch Black Dungeons files, which I also use an SVN for. And we're going to right click here, and WinMerge should also have shell integration. And then it's going to say on the left, we're going to have Pitch Black Dungeons folder. And on the right, I actually want the default games folder, which I also use an SVN for, so I can track changes between vanilla versions. We're going to press OK. And because they have the same file structure, it will bring up all of the folders and show that, like on the right side, which is the vanilla game, there are certain folders that exist only there, and on the left you can see there are sometimes files that exist only there, like my changelog or my PDFs, and anything that's full, that means they exist on both sides. So we're going to go into effects because I know, of course, that will be very, very different from vanilla. What program do you use to group up the desktop folders, like how you're moving them around? That is Stardock Fences, and I can pull up I can pull that up over here, and I'll paste that in chat. That costs $10. However, super worth it. One of the most amazing things ever to exist for Windows. Highly recommend. So as you see here, we're looking at the base effects of PBD on the left, and on the right are the vanilla games effects. And it says text files are different, which of course we know they are, considering the mod changes and adds a lot. And if we double click on this, it's gonna be really weird. It's gonna show this entire left panel full of all these lines of yellow and gray. And hold on, because I'm gonna explain it. So if these files were identical, which I believe I do have some identical files somewhere around here, right here, like the animation, you wouldn't see anything. These files are completely identical. There's no differences to show, and it even says here text files are identical. But in the effects, very different. We have a whole bunch of new ones and a bunch of changed ones, and immediately here, there's an effect that exists only in Pitch Black Dungeon that does not exist in the vanilla version. And if we wanted to copy this over, so let's say there was one that only existed in vanilla that we needed to then bring over to PBD, well, it's pretty simple. We simply click on the area, or we can even double click to select that, and we'll come up here and we'll copy right. It is now copied that change over to the right side, which of course we know is the vanilla games effects file. And we can even just quickly save it. And the cool thing is if we come over to Darkest Dungeons vanilla directory, because I have an SVN set up for this as well, we can see that the effects file changed, and I even created a backup of the old one, which if we open this in Notepad, will not have that kill target queued under kill target. See, we only have kill target here. Set this to JavaScript. So that's a backup. WinMerge automatically will create these backups just in case you happen to royally screw up and you need to revert it. But we don't need that. And actually we don't want the vanilla version changed, of course. We want this we want this to be the base game completely, no changes made. So we're gonna come here, we're gonna right click, Tortoise SVN, we can actually diff. And what diffing does is compares it with the current version, and of course it's going to open up WinMerge actually. Do this. And it's gonna say, hey, you added this in our working copy, but it does not exist in our base revision. It's pretty sexy. Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm able to get updates out for like Pitch Black Dungeon very quickly, very easily, and it's because of Tortoise SVN and WinMerge. I can quickly see the files that change in a vanilla update and apply the necessary changes to my mods. We don't want this. We don't want this working copy here. We could just delete it, but honestly, if you've made a whole bunch of changes to a file and you just want to revert it back, come to Tortoise SVN, revert, and it should automatically be selected. Of course, you can also revert from any directory, and it will show the files that have changed, and you just select them, press OK, and it's reverted. Now, if we open this up, we won't have that effect anymore. It's gone. And we can do this with anything, really. If I were to like accidentally copy PBD's entire effects over, and if I diff these, of course, you would see the exact same things we saw before. Ton of changes and additions. and we just want to revert that. And we're back. We're back to the normal vanilla effects. And you can revert with anything. It's very easy, very simple. You don't need to get too complicated with SVN. It's very, very good. Always wanted to make a character, but God almighty, every text tutorial I've read makes things seem like rocket science. There's a lot to a character. There's an absolute lot if you're making a new character. The best thing I can recommend doing is... heroes are very... just copy one. Just make a copy of the Crusader and just don't mess... I mean, if you want to mess with the art and animation first, you can do that very easily because the Crusaders... that's like dungeon wrong. All you need to do is come in here and change the animations and the sprites, or they're all separated from, you know, like the text. So you don't have to get too crazy with that. But it can be pretty crazy, I admit. Now, log's very important. I know we only went over the Tortoise SVN log briefly. There's only like 3 changes and it's just a 1 PNG file, right? That's not very exciting. It doesn't really showcase the power of the log. So instead, we're going to go into PBD's files and we're going to click on PBD's log, which have a lot of things all the way back from 6.0's public build right here, which included, we make this full screen and we drag this up. PBD's public build included tons and tons and tons of files. And I had over 80 betas just before that, which added and modified a whole bunch of things. Whoops. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on one. I would say this one. Right here. 6.107. That's pretty good. Because as we can see on the left here, the actions to it have been, my mouse stays still, things have been modified, things have been added, and things have been deleted. And that's good because it shows that there have been multiple changes to this version of PBD just in a single update. You can see we deleted a PDF, we added a PDF and some files, and we modified a whole bunch of like enemies and even quirks. We modified some text. I mean, if we want to go in here, if we say, okay, ever since PBD 6.107, someone says, the crow has been causing a crash. And I can be like, okay, so it must have been something that I made I made a mistake in this update to the crow. Well, I can see that the crow definitely was changed. And if I right-clicked on it, I could show the changes. And that will show the change between revision 163 and 164. You have to give me a second because I actually keep PBD's files on another computer here, not on my main computer, and it has to start up the hard drive. So we can see, okay, so in this update we added a loot file, and the loot file must have been causing a crash or something. Maybe I didn't type it correctly or I missed like an O. Whatever, it's just hypothetical. This caused like a bug and we want to see what changes were made. So we can see between revision 163 and 164, I added a loot table. Actually, I got rid of a loot table in this. Had it backwards there for a second. Either way, we can come in and we can see changes done to every single file. We can even come into our XML file and we can see that there was a an additional line of text that was added. So the log of your Tortoise SVN log is incredibly important. It's only for you. Your log can only be seen by you or anybody else working on your mod, of course, who has access to your SVN. But it's a way for you to keep detailed track of all of your changes that you've made. And I can even go to, a very, very widespread update, maybe like, oh yeah, a lot of changes are made in 6.1. That was the compatibility patch for Crimson Court. We changed a whole bunch of stuff in here. We can even see, yeah, I mean, you really need to be very careful. Huge changes to this file with Crimson Court, so there were a lot of changes that were made. And at this point, it might even be better just to open up each revision individually. I believe there's an option that you can open. So you can open the revision 130 and you can see that one. So that's very good. You can even revert changes from this revision immediately within the log. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. So that's very important to do, and you can even click on all of these. You can see all the changes I made. I tend to keep my messages very short. Don't do that. I don't recommend keeping your messages short unless you have another way to keep track of changes, which I do, which leads me into the next bit of software, and that is Google Docs and Google Sheets. And the reason I like this over something like, actually put a pause on that because there's a couple questions I see here. So do you use SVN in the vanilla folder to test things with the DevTools, or is there a DevTool command to launch with a mod? I am sorry, Ties. Let me untime you out. Actually, I think it was 5 seconds. Be careful about posting periods, because Nightbot gets like majorly triggered at that. Sorry about that. Do you use SVN? What I use the SVN in the vanilla folder for is keeping track of vanilla updates. So when a vanilla update comes out, it's going to obviously change like a whole bunch of the files, right? But I can come in here and see every single file that's changed. And so what that's able to do is I can come in here and use WinMerge, for instance. And let's pretend that, where's my PPD files? I can come in here into PPD and use WinMerge to see all of the changes that were made. I can come in here and I can see every single one. So I can take a look, I can say, okay, so maybe there was a change in the effects files, like pretend this has the red exclamation point like we already saw before. I can come in here and go, okay, well, let's go see. Let's go see what the differences is. And even with, let's quickly make a change, blah. And I can come in here, I can go, okay, so what changes were made between the old version of this file and the new one? Oh, well, somebody added the word blah to it. Okay, that's not a necessary thing to copy over, so we won't need to, so we can skip this file. So within a matter of seconds, I'm able to determine exactly what changes were made to a file, whether or not I need to copy them over to my mod, or whether or not just to skip them entirely. It's not a change that's going to affect my mod, it's not something that's going to break the game, so we just don't need this change. And we can move on to the next file. And we do this until all files have gone over and been updated, and then we have an update ready. And within a matter of, you know, maybe anywhere between 5 minutes to an hour, I can have a big update, updated for, I should say. So using a combination of WinMerge and Tortoise SVN, you can update your mod within minutes compared to somebody who just has a regular game. Like I have endless space too here. So if we go to the data, it's like, well, I don't know what changed if there's an update. I mean, maybe a file updated, but when a file updates, it may not update that the folder was updated. You know, there may be a file in here that's newer than the version shows on the folder. So you never want to play things carefully. You never want to play things like that. You want to play things carefully and know what your updates are. However, like I was saying before this, your log is only seen by you. And that's great for you, but it's not great for your users. You know, I say I put out an update for PBD 6.0, for instance, that had over 15 pages of changes, as we can see here with 6.1 or 6.0. I had all these changes made to PBD in a single update. And the reason I was able to do that, and other people can see that, is because I used Google Docs. And Google Docs is great because you can share it with people. We have two people looking at this along with me at the same time. And this is important because I make a huge update. People want to know what changed, of course. And so I create a change log. And this is very important to have for your users, because you don't have it. I mean, how are your users going to know what changes, especially in a large update that has pages upon pages of changes? So using Google Docs, you can then create basically a carbon copy of maybe your more kind of internal Tortoise SVN log that only you know how to decrypt, and you can put it into easy to read changes and things that, you know, the common user or the common player is going to know. You know, someone who was like, oh, there's an issue with, I don't know, I changed something here, it's probably a fix here. There was a weird launch rank thing on Absolution in 5.4. I hope that was fixed. Oh, look, it was fixed. So always keep kind of a carbon copy, more easy to read and discern changelog. And how you do it is up to you. I just use a very simple method of, was a change made to a curio? Yes. What curio? And then what change it was to that curio. So it makes it pretty easy to read. There are better ways to do this. You might have a better way that you would use. But always keep track of your changes, because if you need to revert to something, or somebody needs to create a bug report, for instance, I will get to your question in a second. But if someone has a bug report and you ask them, okay, what change was it? Or like, you know, what update was it? And they can say, oh, it was update 6.001, for instance, that there was a bug. And I can come in here, I can see, okay, so I fixed something, I moved a conditional encounter, and I added stress damage buff to guard dog. Okay. So it allows people and you to coordinate between different versions and quickly discern where a problem might have occurred, or, you know, where a fix is needed. And I can't recommend doing this enough. And even more so than that, I recommend doing it the moment you make a change. Always have your change log up while you are working on a mod. And if you add something or change something, immediately make a note of that in the change log. Because if you don't, you will probably forget, and it will be very difficult to track when a change was made. For instance, if I didn't make any of the changes, if I didn't keep a change log in 6.1, for instance, I then wouldn't be able to come into PBD's log and coordinate what exactly changed with 6.1 here. So you can see I have two different commits for 6.1, and I can come in here and I can look at exactly what was changed. Say, okay, so I added a new buff, and that was causing the problem. Problem fixed, you know? So it's very important to do. Now, let me get to your question. I was more asking because of dev tool usage, like if I add a new enemy, do I need to copy it into the vanilla files, or can I use the command line to launch the game with a mod somehow? Yes. What I do personally, let me grab it, it's on my other screen. You can copy the entire game's directory to another area and launch using the no Steam version. This is very important, because it allows me to just copy over the files that I need and quickly test them. So you absolutely do not need to copy your files into the vanilla games directory. However, if you do copy them over into the vanilla directory, which is a way to do it, I recommend setting up an SVN for the base game. That way you can revert the files easily. Because as you know, especially adding new files If you verify your cache in Steam, it does not get rid of new files. For instance, let me come in here and just copy stupid monster brains over here. It's going to say it's different, which we know that. But if I come into Steam here and we verify the cache, which might take a second here. I have done it other methods, but this is the method that I've stuck with and found to be the quickest, I should say. Infinitely safer. You're much less prone to making mistakes, and you always have this base, pristine version of your mod to work off of. And as you see here, I just verified the cache, but it didn't get rid of the brains. And this is a problem people had with PBD, is that before mod support, you had to copy and paste the files directly in. And verifying your cache wouldn't get rid of it, so you had to delete the entire Darkest Dungeon folder and then reinstall. Could you test compatibility with other mods that way? Are mods saved in different portions of Steam file structures they would have to be copied over? Yes. Unless somebody provides a copy of their mod through different means of download, which is what I do. I give, manual versions to people who don't have Steam, of course, or who don't have, an internet connection on what they're going to be playing on. That just goes in the mods folder, which I think I even threw some in there. Yeah, to test. Or if they don't provide one, you need to go to Workshop, Content, and 262060 is the game's ID, and then individual mod IDs are in here. I believe this one is PBDs, yes. So it stores them in here. You have to know them by ID. If you don't know them by ID, you can simply go to the modding page, click on the item, and it's up here. The ID is up here. 824-200-473. 824-200-473. Mod folder is structured very simply. I usually have it on details. You literally throw the mod folder in there. Right in the data folder is exactly how it's supposed to be set up. So I have, for Pitch Black Dungeon, I have it set up very simply, and that's, as you see, here in the mods folder, Pitch Black Dungeon, and over here you have Pitch Black Dungeon. And it's set up the exact same way. And that way I can quickly archive my PBD folder like this. And once it's created the archive, people simply just need to extract it directly to the mods folder. They don't need to do anything else with it. Yeah, I was going to get into Google Sheets as well. That's a way to document changes. I use that a lot as well. Let me pull that up. My handy little batch file to open things in application mode. So for instance, I have, what's a good one? Like my loot file, where I keep track of all the loot changes. Now we're not going to get into this yet, but I just want to portray that keeping track not just through Google Docs, but also basically making copies of something. And this allows me to see, C for instance is gold. Whenever you do a gold draw in apprentice level dungeons, which is marked by 1, it's going to pull from this table, and you can see the individual chances of the gold amounts here, and then those are mimicked within the loot file. The more documentation, the better. You should be spending more time on documentation and preparing for change than actually making the change itself. And this is so that if you make a mistake or you need to adjust it further, you have a memory, you have this copy of what you did before. So, are there any other questions? I know we covered a lot of stuff that you probably have not ever had to mess with before. Which I apologize for the kind of the information overload there. We've been over a ton. Yeah, I can take some questions. If there's anything that you want me to go over again or explain further, please ask now, because in the following streams, we're gonna be kind of assuming that you know what you're doing with the SVN. We're not gonna be using any like other commands with the Tortoise SVN that you haven't seen here, but if you want to see them again or get some more information on how they're used, I can do that. I could go over how to like create the repository for Darkest Dungeon. That's actually pretty easy, like the base game. That's super easy, by the way. I can do it with like a simple game, but let's see here. It's a game. I like Terraria here. Works. Oh, it's empty. Need that then. Mass file rename. There are programs that do that. That's difficult. You have to get external software if you want to do mass file renaming, or you're gonna have to do it manually. And it all depends on your case, you know, if you want to just append like a letter to something, that's fine, but in small cases, it might just be quicker to do it manually. You know, because I've had to do that for all of PBD's affixes. Which if you've heard me complain about it in PBD, which I've done before, every single affix in PBD is actually a completely different enemy, it's considered. So if I want to make like another Cultist Brawler here, I have to come in here and rename the folder and these two files. For one enemy, it's not too bad, but when you're adding like 100 new enemies, it can just get really tiring. A lot of clicking, typing things, it's, you know, it can be a... By the way, we just added something to this folder and we got rid of it, but it's still going to act like something's changed. It's not going to like that. Super easy way to get rid of it, to fix that. Go to Tortoise SVN and press clean up. And just press OK. With what it says basically there, it's just going to reset the shell overlay, check if anything is there that shouldn't be, and fix the overlay. You missed a good chunk of it, but don't worry, because all these are going to be saved on my YouTube channel. Let me get that link to you guys. It's going to be immediately uploaded afterwards. It's going to take a little while to upload, but if you have missed it, actually that's not the right one. I hope I haven't been providing that one, because that one is the wrong one. We want this one. That's the YouTube channel. That's the one that it'll be saved at when we're done. Yep. The VOD will also be available, but of course I'm not a partnered Twitch streamer, so it will, you know, it's only going to be available for like a few weeks. Yes, there is, but it's difficult. There are SVN hosting places, so SVN hosting. I personally use one. I like Assembla. Let me see. I think this also works if I do that. Yes. So I use one called Assembla. It's really awesome. I believe they have a free version of it, but it can get pretty expensive when you want to do something like that. I recommend it over Git. I hate Git. I don't think it's very good. I think SVN is so much easier to use as a whole, and it works in pretty much the same way. However, you can also host your own, which I do, and that requires a bit of server setup, and that's what's it called? It's called what is it called? I forgot the name. I should know this. I really should. I think it's called like WinSVN. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that because I can't remember it off the top of my head. Matt Hatter asks, you can highlight the whole thing and we'll save it for later. Not sure if there's a max. Yes. I mean, it's not going to be necessary. I want to have it up on YouTube anyway, since I think that's just the preferred area for people to see things. And I have a copy of, you know, the chat up here so people who are watching can read it, of course. But you can, as Gamer Chris asked, you can host your own SVN with a bit of setup using an external program, which is what I do for PBD. So if, you know, I have like artists working with me, I can tell them how to set up the SVN and get them to, you know, upload their Photoshop files and PNGs so that I can have access to them too. And that's useful because I save all of like my artwork stuff, like trinkets. So I save everything. I want everything saved, you know. Should my hard drive here fail, I can just, you know, get a new hard drive and restore it from my actual repo on my other computer, or should that one fail, I have everything on here. So it's always good to have a backup with that stuff, because I have lost things before having an SVN, but now that I do, I don't really lose anything, and I can revert to any changes or revisions that I went to. Any other questions about whatever we went over? I don't know what we went over. What did we go over? I accidentally closed my tab. Let me pull that back up. Any questions about the future streams? Notepad++, Tortoise SVN, WinMerge, Google Docs, Sheets. Did the trinket art, Red Die number 5, I want a flagellant all art for the Temperance Tarot card. I need to know who to ask. Red Die did do the trinket art for the tarot cards. So you would have to ask her and see if she'd be willing to do it. Well, I'm sure she would accept pay. I mean, I'm not going to speak for requirements there. She doesn't do much of the art for PPD anymore since she has more commissions. She's been moving recently, so I've been talking to other artists too. I mean, that's pretty much everything with software. I don't use a lot of like crazy things. I don't have anything that I pay for to use. Everything's free. Very basic stuff. I mean, Tortoise SVN is super powerful, but even there's a ton of stuff I don't know how to use. Branching, switching, like there's crazy stuff like creating patches. There's never really a need for modders to do that for this game. I'm sure if you were, you know, had more complex software creation, you would probably need to use that, but you don't need to do that for modding. I mean, if that's all the questions, I'll throw up the schedule again, but quickly go over what's going to be going on tomorrow. Here we go. Tomorrow's going to be pretty basic too. We're going to be doing some string editing. I already have things in mind that I'm going to create, of course, for trinkets, quirks and stuff. Trinkets should be pretty fun. You know, we're actually going to be starting to work on the files and doing commits. Did I say tomorrow? I hope I didn't say tomorrow. It's not tomorrow. This is every Friday and Monday at 1 p.m. CST. So the next is, of course, on the 10th. Monday, July 10th. And then the one after that, stream 3, is going to be on the 14th. Same time, we're going to be starting, you know, 10 minutes early. I'm going to just start the stream and let people filter in, get something to drink quickly. I don't like starting just kind of like out of the blue there. So we should have a pretty chill time on Monday making some stuff. And if we have some extra time, maybe, you know, create another quirk or throw in a few trinkets. We'll clean that up. But for now, we already have our mods repo set up, ready to go. I did not go to college at all. As a matter of fact, I did. I actually dropped out of high school early. All of this is self-taught, which is fun in some cases, but to be honest, there are times where I wish I had a college schedule, you know, classes to go to, predetermined. I didn't have to really work on it at all. This is all self-taught. The basement hacker, I wish. I don't hack. I just create. I just do game design. Alright, well I think that concludes it then. Thank you everybody for showing up. I look forward to seeing you all on Monday, where we will be getting on to God, I just forgot. Strings, trinkets, and quirks. Should be a fun day. A lot of new implementation stuff we can already start to see in game. If you have any questions, of course, I'm gonna give the Discord link, and I highly encourage you to join, ask questions about the stream, anything you want. Pop in there, and I'll treat you right. Oh, thank you for showing up. Chibico asked, "What am I working on now?" Well, I have done some contract work for the base game. Obviously, things are pretty quiet right now because an update was just released. But I'm independent. I make some stupid little text adventures because, you know, I'm not an artist. But I also do some demos and stuff. And at the moment, I'm pretty open for work. So I'm looking around. But again, thank you for showing up. This has been really fun. I know it's pretty short stream compared to like other streamers, but I am very introverted and I wanted to keep these kind of short and focused on very specific things. So I cannot do animated enemies. I'm very sorry. I'm not an artist at all. I can't even draw a stick figure. I even think I'm pretty proud of being able to put text on an image like we did for our preview icon. No, that's not very much work. I'm not an artist. We're just going to be getting the design side of things. I hope someone else creates animations, you know, does a tutorial for animations and art. That's not what I can't do that at all. You do need spine to animate. That is very, very right. And that's a minimum of $70, I believe. And I own that. I can't do it, so I give it to let other artists use it to animate if they want to do anything for me. Yeah, thank you for showing up. Again, if you have questions past the stream, hop into the Discord, and I can answer what I can try to do, you know. My copy at the moment is only limited to artists who would want to create animations for me. BBD, of course. Which I'm sorry, but you know, I can't be giving it out to everybody. Alright, thank you again, everybody, and I will see you all on Monday. Have a wonderful night, evening, whatever time it is, morning, whatever. Thank you for showing up, and again, See you on Monday with strings, quirks, and trinkets.